Hello everyone, this is Dr. Thayyaba, Associate Professor, Department of CSE. So we are going to learn about object-oriented programming structure through Java. So we will understand the principles of object-oriented programming and then how Java is evolved as object-oriented programming. In this lecture, we are going to learn about Introduction to Object-Oriented Principles, how a programming language is called object-oriented programming language, what concepts of it a programming to be adopting, and we will see the difference between the procedural languages that we have and the object-oriented programming language, and we'll see the difference between the other languages of object-oriented programming like C++ and Java, and I'll introduce you to the concept of object-oriented programming, class and object, and the constructor in the class, and we'll see the advantage of using this programming language. So if you see here, the object-oriented programming, how it works. If you want to write a program using object-oriented language, then you have to rely on the concept of class and object. What is class? If you see here the example, the car is a class. The car is having some properties. What are those properties? A car will have some brand and it have some color, it have some speed, it have some engine on and off attributes. So these are called attributes or properties of a class. So now if I want to create a car management system, then initially what I do, I will create a car with all its properties. Then a car will also have a behavior. What is the behavior of the class, car class? So we will start the car, will accelerate, will brake, and will stop the engine. So these are the behavioral aspects of a class. So in object-oriented programming language, using this language, if you want to write a program, then every entity what you consider, you will be defining it as a class. And what this class includes? The class includes the properties of the entity that you are mentioning. Here I have mentioned the real world entity car. And when I define a program or when I create an application, software application for car management system, then I will define a car class and with the properties like brand, color, speed, engine on. And there may be extra properties. Here I have mentioned some of the properties that we can define for a car class. Now, okay, I have defined a car class. There may be several cars. If you are managing a car software, the car software will is going to address different types of cars. Then how do you create different types of cars in object-oriented programming? So if you see here, car 1 is the instance of the car class. That means a car class is a super class, and for that super class we are defining different subclasses. So those subclasses can be like a sports car or can be electric car. So we can define different types of subclasses for the car class. So here, if you see, when I talk about a programming in object-oriented, I am talking about creating a class. And whatever the Toyota red 30 kilometer, that means speed of the Toyota brand car, which is of a red color, is having 30 kilometer per hour speed. So, okay, that means these are the properties of which car? These are the properties of a Toyota car. These are the properties of a Toyota car. So, how can you create a value to this brand? Here, for a brand variable, we have created a value Toyota. How did we do that? So, we can do it using the concept of object. What is object? Object is going to create an instance of the class. So, this Toyota car properties is an instance of the car class. Likewise, if you see, I have created another instance car2. Car2 is of BMW. There may be another car of another brand, maybe Mercedes, maybe Mahindra, maybe Tata. So there may be different instances of this class. So basically the idea is, in object-oriented programming, we organize the codes as classes and objects. So that is the basic idea of object-oriented programming. So is this only the programming that we write as a class and object? There are other principles of the object-oriented programming language. What are those other principles? We will learn here. So what are the other properties of a object-oriented programming? Right now you have seen a class and you have seen object. Now how can we define these principles of object-oriented programming using these two? Now I told you there is a car class which can be of different types, either Toyota car or BMW car or Tata car, right? So what is encapsulation in it? What this principle of object-oriented programming helps? This principle of object-oriented programming is going to bind the data, which I called it as properties, attributes, with the behavior. With what are the behavior that we have seen just now is the engine on, accelerate, brake, stop. So those are the behavioral aspects of the car class. Those we call it as a method. So what encapsulation basically do is, the encapsulation is going to bind the properties of attributes of the class and methods at one place. So what is the advantage for it doing this? So we can have the control access. So control access means who can access these properties and methods of a class. So that's how the encapsulation will help us. That's how the encapsulation will help us in protecting the data of a class. So encapsulation is the principle of object-oriented programming which will create a security for the program that we are creating. Either it is C++, either it is Java, the famous object-oriented programming that we use for creating the applications, software applications. So encapsulation is such principle where we create a program and secure the program by encapsulating the data. That means by binding the data at one place. So, and another principle of object-oriented programming is abstraction. What is abstraction? Abstraction is nothing but, see, you mention the method name. Okay, for example, accelerate is the method name. Okay, but you are not going to define what our accelerate behavior is. That means when you keep the gear 1, then what is the speed of the car? When you change the gear 2, what is the speed of the car? So those details we are not going to clearly make visible to other programs or other classes. So that kind of feature we can achieve through abstraction. It only shows the essentials. That means what are the properties? Let us say brand, color and other parameters, speed. Okay, but what is the speed? 180 kilometers, 200 kilometers or 300 kilometers, that we are not going to reveal in the abstraction phase. So abstraction is going to help further in hiding the details of the behavior and class properties, so that it will provide further security to, when you write a program in Java. That is the advantage of object-oriented programming. So Java is called fully object-oriented programming because the principles of encapsulation and abstraction is fully followed in Java. Whereas in C++, we call partial object-oriented programming, because in C++, we have some kind of leverage where even the abstract methods can be, the behavioral aspects of the abstract methods also can be leveraged in C++ using some features of the C++. And we have another object-oriented feature principle, that is inheritance. So what we achieve with the inheritance? We can reuse whatever the class we are creating. If you see the object-oriented programming, if you see the structure-oriented programming, then the code reusability is much in object-oriented programming through inheritance concept. This concept is not there in structure-oriented programming, where you create one structure, you use that structure, but there is no concept of creating substructures, inheriting the properties of the structure. But whereas in object-oriented programming, if you are creating a car class, then the car class is having the property speed, then the speed property can be utilized by Toyota, BMW or Tata. So when the principle of inheritance is implemented, how principle of inheritance is implemented? Toyota can be the subclass of car class. Car is the base class. Toyota is a derived class. So Toyota have an advantage of using the car properties like speed, color, other properties. And the methods also, start engine, stop engine, accelerate, brake, all those methods also can be used by the Toyota. That means we are just creating a car class with the properties like speed, engine on, engine off, all that. And we are making a subclass, without, any properties creation. What happening? We are saving the memory. Because the Toyota class also require the properties like speed, color, brand. So it can use the properties existing in the car class by making the car class as a parent class. So it no need to create again. So that's how we can save the memory through inheritance. So what we are doing, we are reusing the objects that we have created already, or the properties that we have created, the classes that we have created. So we are just extending it to use it in our program. We are not recreating the properties. So that is the advantage, one of the advantage of the object-oriented programming, inheriting the properties of a parent class into child class. What is the parent class here? Car is a parent class, whereas the type of cars will be the subclasses, which will use the properties of the parent class. Now we have, when you are inheriting the properties, what you are doing, whatever the name of the method, like accelerate is the method that we have. So the same accelerate method, same name, I am using in a subclass also. So that means the same name, polymorphism. That means one method with with the same name with different behaviors. So we will see an example of that, how polymorphism works in inheritance. What is inheritance? The properties of the parent class can be accessed by the child classes. Okay, like properties like attributes and methods. And how can the polymorphism is achieved? So we will see. Same method name with different outcomes. So that is the polymorphism is achieved in inheritance. What is that? We will see in further classes. If you see an example here, I have taken an example here. What is encapsulation? So here we have defined a car class with the properties like speed and model. Okay, two properties. These properties are called attributes. Okay, or these are called members. Okay, so the car class is also have the class not only have the members attributes but also the behavioral aspect. What are the behavioral aspect? Methods. Or these are called member functions. Member functions. So why this indicates, the method indicates the behavior of these car properties. That's why these are called member functions. We'll see how it functions. Okay. And then if you see the abstraction, what is there in encapsulation? The properties of a class like attributes and methods are binded together. So information binding is achieved. Information binding is achieved through encapsulation. Okay, what happens when you bind the information? You can control the access. Okay, who can access this particular block? So that you can control. And then we have another property called abstraction. If you see this example, here we have to mention the keyword abstract before the class name, so that it only shows the essentials, not the inside data. Here it is not showing the what are the properties of a clearly what are the properties of a car class, what is inside the start engine. Okay, here if you see electric car is a subclass of this car class. Okay, why do you need a subclass? To implement the methods of a abstract class. That means abstract class cannot define its method by its own. Okay, so there are versions of Java in which we can we can define the abstract classes, all abstract methods also inside a class. But initially the idea of abstraction is to hide the details of the member function, and the member functions are implemented by the child classes. So the derived classes of this parent class can, if you see here, start engine is whose method? Start engine is the car class method. But the electric car is also having start engine, same name. That means it used its parent properties. That is inheritance. So if you see here, in inheritance, it is not that it will access the properties of the parent class. It can have its own methods also. It can have its own methods also. If you see in this example of a sports car, which is derived from the car class, also having another method called turbo boost. So sports cars are famous for what? Speed. So we can have another method other than this fuel status start engine of a car class. So the extra methods also extra methods also the derived class can have. If you take an example of car for a polymorphism example, it have a drive method. So same drive method is taken in the base class sports car also. Then what we say is that method overriding. Method overriding means here this method may have some functionality. Okay, if you take a drive method in an electric car, the functionality is different. That means that speed, the gears may be different, the behavior may be different. But if you take a sports car, the behavior of the same method may be different. So the same method is having multiple behaviors in a derived classes. So what is override is nothing but there may be some behavior in the parent class. It is not necessary that the child classes will have the same behavior. The child classes which are inheriting the same method can have different outcomes, different behaviors. So that's why it's called polymorphism. Poly means many. So same method is having many forms. That means many behaviors, many outcomes. Sports car may have one drive feature. The electric car may have another feature. The regular cars may have another drive feature. So the drive method is same for all these cars, but the functionality is different in different cars. So that polymorphism. Same method with different behaviors. So till now we have learnt about the object-oriented programming language basics. class object, and the core principles of object-oriented programming language like encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. In further classes, we learn about the other differences of the programming languages like procedure object-oriented and the programming languages of object-oriented C++ and Java. Thank you very much.
Like, share, comment, and subscribe VNR Digital Learning Resource YouTube channel.